Festive greetings, one and all. Welcome to the Christmas episode of the 1904 Club. We all got the memo, apart from Burnsy, who dressed in his Christmas attire to celebrate Hull City's 1-0 win over West Bromwich Albion on Saturday. Didn't you, Burnsy?
Yeah, I'm just not a Christmas jumper sort of bloke, really. So I do apologise. I feel like I've let the side down. But I do have a Christmas tree there, okay? So there is some festive cheer in the Burns household. Just doesn't come from me, really. So, but I'm, enjoying me Christmas time so far and enjoying the football. Loads of response on the 1904 Club, so I'll get through your messages. And I'll let you do the rest of the introductions. By the way, have you got extra muscle in that Grinch costume? You look as though the Grinch has gone a bit Hull.
It's not the Grinch, you buffoon. It's in honour of Prutton and his Buddy the Elf. It's Buddy. Look, it says Buddy the Elf.
All right, I couldn't see.
Got it.
Sorry. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Got you. Buddy the Elf.
Sorry.
And speaking of Buddy the Elf, we've got Sky Sports'. I was going to go to Kathryn next, but it's topical. Speaking of Buddy the Elf, Prutton is here. Hello.
Hello. I should have brought the costume back from work, shouldn't I? But it's quite up close. It's more offensive up close than it actually is on screen because there's no hiding place in yellow tie.
Yeah, Kathryn mentioned that. Your guests were surprised when you came out.
I think this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back for Kathryn. Like a proper journo just sat here going, "Are you all now bonkers?" Yeah,
I think you wrote that one out a while ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so we'd done this promo, and then on Saturday, the producer that I worked with said, "Are you all right to put it on again?" And I pretended that I'd read what it sent me regards running. I said, "Yeah, of course," and then thought, "What?" And then proceeded to in the bit of if you're remotely bothered about watching what we do before you kind of throw to the commentary team. There's me asking Kevin Phillips about how Southampton are going to line up dressed as an elf, kind of going, "Do you think they'll go after Coventry?" He's just looking at me as if to say, "What on earth are you doing?" But yeah, it's sad what these people that need validation and attention do for that said validation and attention, really, isn't it?
What's really disappointing?
I was loved too much as a kid. That's what it is. I've got this insane sense of self-confidence and misplaced self-belief. So blame Jane and Barry Prutton of number something Wolverton Lane. Yeah.
That's not me, by the way, just for clarity.
You do look old enough to be my dad.
What was really disappointing about the Christmas promo being on Sky is cracking was that Warnock wore a jumper, and he's one of those few people that should be kind of sectioned that believe that Die Hard is a Christmas film. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
You need to.
I think that there's. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a bit of artistic license with that. I don't actually think he's heard of Die Hard, nor the fact that it's a film. So he's up for a laugh, is Neil. And he's very game for it. So no, all good. And obviously, former Tigers captain Curtis Davis in there doing his bit.
Absolutely, and a nice clip of Gelhardt and Bloomy celebrating at Stoke right at the end. I enjoyed that. That was a nice little nod. Speaking of the only real journalist on the programme, who's just sat there banging her head
bemused,
is
absolutely bemused to the hilt.
But she has got a Christmas jumper on, and she might have to
move. Yeah, sorry, I'll move the screen down so you can see my.
Love
Christmas jumper. I just sort of wonder whether Mick McCarthy's getting any money for all of these things, where is that clip of him saying it can, whether he gets any money out of it, or whether someone's made a Christmas jumper out of his face. I don't know whether he is involved in any way or not, but I thought you were very good, Elf Prutts. I thought you did a very good job.
Thank you.
This could be the start of your acting career.
I mean, we've come fully away from any form of insightful football reportage.
I don't think we've ever done that.
No, from my point of view, it's just he'll do it because he will. There you go. It's my job to make you all feel at ease by being the biggest Wally in the room.
Your game, if nothing else, and like Burnsy said in the group the other day, that a bit like Joe Pasquale, you've got this Panto. When your Sky career eventually collapses, Panto is an opportunity for you.
There's between me and Pasquale, there's only room for one super masculine potential Panto star. And it ain't Pasquale, I'll tell you that.
Go on, but before we crack on with the football, because there'll be one or two people listening to this.
Oh, God, there'll be so many that have already gone.
Yeah. Shut up and talk about football, you idiots.
Dear.
Kathryn. Burnsy, you were wagging your finger when Kathryn was talking about Prutts in his Alf outfit.
I just had a Neil Warnock joke, but it's the moment sort of passed really. I thought he thought that Die Hard was a tough tackling Welsh midfielder.
Very good, and you can find that in crackers available from Burnsy's household.
Funny. Should we talk a bit of football on the 1904 club on the back of maybe a fortunate win over West Bromwich Albion, but a win nevertheless. I think there's a fair amount to discuss. I was really looking forward to the 4-4-2 because you don't see it very often, two strikers, and sadly it didn't really work. He had to change it at half time, and it was evident even before the game. I'm thinking Slater and Crooks are going to have to do a fair bit of work here if they're going to get any purchase in the game against an extra man in the West Brom midfield, and so it proved. Really, they struggled to get there, but a victory for doggedness, a bad refereeing decision as well. West Brom will feel badly done to by that, and I would agree with them. And City didn't create a huge amount in the game, but they won the game and they're fourth in the table, and it was enjoyable in a different way compared to Millwall. So. Yeah, and we've got lots of messages coming in, and I'll shut up now and let the rest of you chat away, and I'll throw some messages in.
Kathryn, it was a gritty one, wasn't it? And they didn't play well in the first half, although funny enough, they probably started the game quite well, but then lost their way a little bit. But he changed it at half time, and they were much. West Brom didn't really lay a glove on them in the second half, but it kind of felt like that sort of game that West Brom have done many times in their promotion seasons of not being at the best, but gritting it out and winning 1-0 clean sheet. Nobody really cares because you've won the game. It kind of had that feeling, didn't it, that they've just got the job done, and in a busy period, difficult pitch. West Brom obviously fighting for the manager and in terrible form away, 7 defeats away from home. They found a way, and that's what it's about, isn't it?
We've had a lot of games like that this season, though, where in the first half the opposition seemed to have missed about 4 or 5 chances. I think Norwich away stands out as the obvious one. I mean, Middlesbrough a few weeks ago obviously took every chance they basically had in the first half, but we've had quite a few 45 minutes where it does sort of feel like it's been one-way traffic, and then they sort it out at half time, and they're a lot better. And obviously he had to change the system on Saturday. He changed the system at Norwich as well. So that is kind of what I would always say. The manager he does seem to recognise when it's not working, and he is able to find a way to make it work. And I mean, we got a little bit of luck in that. I can't remember who it was for West Brom that missed the glorious transfer over the bar, but. Yeah, there was a few of them where you sort of think Ryan Mason's probably thinking, what more can I do at this point when we're creating the chances and players kind of can't hit the target from 3 or 4 yards out. But I do think in the second half we were a lot better. We defended much better. We looked a bit more solid. I mean, Charlie Hughes playing with a bandage around his head sort of summed up the performance maybe in terms of kind of just finding that grit and determination to get over the line. The only thing, slight concern was just how exposed we seemed to be for pace in the first half. But I do think that was probably the way we were set up, maybe in terms of not having that protection of the back four, and we did look a lot more solid in the second half.
And Prutts, given that West Brom had beaten Sheffield United last Friday and they played really well in the second half, yes, I know their away form has been pretty rubbish recently, but that a win over West Brom at any stage of the season is a big one, and to go 9 points clear of a team that at the start of the season were in that pack of fancied teams for the playoffs. It's another example of the really good progress that they're making under Sergei Yakurovich.
Which huge. I mean, and I don't quite know what to make of West Brom. You kind of think that if they carry on as they are, there might be cause for discussion further up there. 16th and nowhere near where they should be, given what they would have wanted before the season started. But yeah, I get what you're saying about the performance and rubber the green and all that type of stuff. But it doesn't matter, does it? It's boxing another game off. It's moving into the Christmas period. It's showing a reaction to parts of performances that have left a lot to be desired. It probably, to be brutally honest and realistic with what Hull City are, it shows what they are both capable of and what could potentially be a problem, that inconsistency within games. As Kathryn said, you get games such as Borough where they have the quality to take chances and City are completely dead and buried by half-time. So there's an element of being wary of that and it being a work in progress. But I don't think that's too shocking, is it, from the group of players? And when I say, I mean that with the greatest respect in what these players are and who these players are and the experience that they've got. The fact that they have been brought together to a club which only survived by the skin of its teeth last season probably means that they're going to be prone to a little bit of inconsistency as a group. And I think we've seen that. But broadly, immensely likeable, very hardworking, capable of showing real resilience and character. So many things to like about it. And boxing off a West Brom side that I'm sure we're not necessarily nitpicking, and forgive us if it sounds like we are, because we're not, because it's very, very celebratory with what City are doing. But there's half a dozen teams that would kill, wouldn't they? Dozen teams to kill to be where City are right now and do what they've done so far this season. And
Burnsy, we talked about, you touched on it there, about the shape, and he felt that he'd got two strikers in good form. He wanted to start McBurnie, so he went 4-4-2. It clearly didn't work because they were cut through in midfield. We sort of said before the game, it's nice to see him go with two strikers, but the worry is Slater and Crooks in midfield, the way how they'll manage that, and that they were picked off, semi-regularly in that first half. But he made the change at half time. He sacrificed Kyle, brought on Amir, went to a more traditional, that 4-2-3-1, and from that, I mean, Kyle and Grant had that shot from the left-hand side at the start of the second half, but West Brom never laid a glove on them second half. They were much more compact. It was more like what we've become used to, wasn't it, with that midfield setup? Everybody looked a little bit more at ease with the familiar system. And yes, they didn't create oceans, but they never looked in any real danger, even at 1-0, did they?
I think that's a fair point. I was just excited by the 4-4-2 because you don't see it very often. It's just a shame they couldn't get enough service to the wingers, couldn't get enough. They started all right in it, but West Brom had, the extra man in midfield made so much difference. But ultimately, as Prutts says, you box it off and you take the result and you look at the table. I think fourth at Christmas. Paul Jarvis sends a note to the 1904 club. I was walking back into town with a couple of West Brom fans. Had a good chat. They said, what a horrible team to play against. Never give you a moment and fight for everything. They couldn't believe it. We haven't paid a penny in transfers. Thought it was a great compliment. And Northern Boy says, couldn't have asked for more given the circumstances we've been operating under. As long as we can get key players fit, there's no reason we can't be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. And Hull City Oz says, anybody know any good hotels to pre-book for Wembley? And he says he might have to book the flights. So we will wait and see. I may need booking a flight. People are getting excited about it. And rightly so. These are exciting times.
It's such a stark difference to last year, isn't it? I mean, nobody would. I mean, you wouldn't describe City as horrible last year, would you? It'd have been timid, soft, easy to beat. It's been a fundamental change by virtue of who they brought in on the pitch and who they brought in off the pitch. So yeah, it's if City get a reputation as that in the Championship, that is going some, and it bodes well for the next few months, doesn't it?
And Kathryn, look, it wasn't that first half wasn't vintage on Saturday, but we saw against Wrexham they played some wonderful football. Yes, they rode their luck with the more chance and then the penalty, but they dominated the game. They should have been out of sight, really. And at Millwall, they obviously had the rocky couple of minutes to start the game, but then went and won it quite comfortably in the end. You know, you're not going to be a swashbuckling best every single week in the Championship. It's just not realistic. So there are going to be games where you've got to ride your luck, where you've got to dig in and grit it out. And the fact that we're seeing all types of kind of different facets to their arsenal. And we saw that on Saturday. First half, yes, they rode their luck. Carlin Grant should have scored in the first half. Isaac Price should have scored. But that was really it from West Brom. They recovered, they changed it, were better, and they found a way to win the game. And they've now won half of their games. You know, and they're there on merit, aren't they? They're fourth in the table. It's not like teams below them have got loads of games in hand, and that you think, well, once it settles down, they'll be out the top six and they'll fall away. They keep, they have a setback. They have the Middlesbrough game. They go and win the second half. Then they go and win the next 3 games, of which they keep 2 clean sheets. So they're getting better and they're learning, aren't they? They seem to be learning from it.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between sort of being a team that can be horrible to play against and a team that sort of loses the discipline, which I think is kind of what West Brom did on Saturday, and it's what City did at times last season, where sometimes you felt like they were too soft to play against, like they didn't have any kind of real grit, and then when they did sort of show it, it was in moments where they did stupid things and players got sent off. And I actually think that's what we saw from West Brom on Saturday. And while I think people thought the red card was harsh, and it maybe should have been a yellow, Alfie Gilchrist did something very similar last season when he played for Sheffield United, and he didn't get booked. I actually think his challenge last season was probably worse and probably should have been sent off. And it was something really similar where he just flew in unnecessarily with his studs raised. And I think maybe the referees kind of reacted a bit too quickly on Saturday, but also he's gone in quite high and raised his studs, and it was just one of those where it was completely stupid. And it just sort of reminded me of Matt Crooks at Swansea last season, where it's kind of him showing that kind of emotion, but in the wrong sort of way. Whereas I think this season, when it's the complete opposite, I think we're actually digging in. And I think Matt Crooks is a perfect example of a player that's just horrible to play against, because he just such a kind of like, he just knows the kind of old school tricks, doesn't he? And I think this season he's using it in the right way. Maybe it was last season he was using it in a way out of frustration. And sometimes that's what you need to be well organised. And I think sometimes we're not well organised defensively, but we're organised in a sense of just being able to kind of grind things out, even if we are conceding goals in games. And sometimes you need that as much as, creating things at the other end, just to get into that top 6 bracket. I'm actually quite concerned because the Championship playoff final clashes with the Women's Champions League final, which I would contend if there's an English team in the final. So I'm very much hoping there isn't an English team in the final, just in case. So if Chelsea get to the semis and play Lyon, I'm going to be French for a day, I think.
The irony, Burnsy, the irony of Gilchrist was that he was brought on because Campbell, the right back, had been booked. And there were a couple of challenges that could have gone and seen him sent off. He was replaced by Gilchrist to protect him. And then Gilchrist gets sent off. And I don't know about you, but from where I was sat up, obviously the back row of the West Stand, it did look like he'd caught Liam Miller around the knee, because the way the challenge happened, it happened very quickly. Miller went rolling around, holding his leg. It did look, and the referee Ruben Ricardo, who we had at Birmingham, let's not forget, it seemed like it took a while, and he walked around a bit, and then he sort of walked back on the pitch, and all of a sudden just flashed a red card. It was a really strange. But Ryan Mason was obviously furious and thinks they're going to, he was talking about appealing it. But Kathryn's right in that moment of discipline. I guess West Brom will say, well, if we get it rescinded, it wasn't a lack of discipline, but it was a challenge. Either way, he didn't need to go in that high and go in on Miller, did he?
Well, the thing that sort of informed my thoughts on it, because I thought it might be a yellow card here, is nobody went up. Nobody protested. It was right in front of the City bench. Nobody was saying it's get him off or anything like that. It was just there was no reaction from players or coaching staff. So they were unfortunate, but that's their problem. They've got to deal with it in a possible suspension. Jason Statham, no, not that one. It's good to enjoy the football again, maybe not Saturday's game. Looks like there's a proper bond between the squad, which we haven't had for a long time, and that could take us places this year. M of North, who's in Tenerife, it's a whole difference to last year. One wonders how we may have coped had we gone down. Question is, where do we go from here? Well, playoffs, and we'll come to the possibility of making the top two. I don't know. Gird your loins for that one, the three of you. So we'll answer that question, or try to. Feels completely surreal, says Oliver Harsley, that we're actually inside the playoff places and only 5 points off the top two, which again is a testament to Sergei, his management team and the players. Have a great Christmas and keep up the top work with the pod. Is the top two possible? Because they've got to go to Middlesbrough. And, I mean, I'm making the assumption they'll win at Sheffield Wednesday. They'll want the backsides kicking if they don't, and complacency will be the danger. But, you know, Middlesbrough on the 29th, is the top two possible?
Go on, Prutts.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's given what you got Coventry on 48, Borough 42, so City 5 points off second spot. It's not insurmountable at all. And given what we've seen from them and the ability to beat teams that are there and in and around where they're going to be, then I wouldn't rule it out. I'm watching Coventry on Saturday against Southampton. Very, very good going forward. Obviously, they had to deal with going down to 10 men as well. And going back to Kathryn's point about what City are this season, if it is a little bit gung-ho at the back, there's a lot more confidence in the sense of being able to score goals. Whereas last season, if City went a goal down, you'd be there scratching your head thinking, how on earth are they going to get back into this game? Whereas I'm not saying that's an MO for the rest of the season, just kind of kamikazely outscoring the opposition, but they can rest assured that they can create. So as for the top two, excuse me, the fact that you've got Ipswich, Preston and Millwall all around you jostling for positions, and Borough have been impressive since Hellberg came into the club, but not far and away vastly better than City, I don't think, even though obviously on the day it was a poor City side coming up against a side that was in a free scoring mood. I don't think the top two is completely out of sight at all.
So in terms of just quickly on Boxing Day, because I know you've got to shoot off soon.
Not to get to Boxing Day, but
just walking in your Alf outfit.
Yeah.
The Sky Studio. With Wednesday, obviously we know it's been well documented their problems and etc. I mean, they seem to put up a good fist of it for a bit at Ipswich and got themselves back in the game through Liam Cooper, and then ended up losing 3-1. Jaden scored again. They've not won at home all season. Is that obviously there's going to be City have sold out their allocation. It's going to be like Burnsy says. Complacency is a big thing. Everybody will expect City, who are fourth, to go there and win. Given Wednesday's troubles and that they haven't won at home all season, and everybody will expect City to win, is that a dangerous game for City? If they turn up and play anything like they can, they'll win the game, obviously. But that the Championship is unpredictable at its best, and you know how it works.
But that's the test, isn't it, of what Ben's has just asked about them getting in the top two. This is one of those games that falls into that category that they've got to get through and manage and show the difference in the quality, difference in the confidence levels, difference in the clubs and the situations that both find themselves in. I think what you'll find with Wednesday, it's a team littered with decent experience and good footballers. I just think, as a whole, given the tremendous odds that they're battling against to get anywhere near safe, I just think that's sucking the life out of it a little bit, and understandably so. Yeah, there was great joy and reaction to the ownership being changed or in the process of changing it, but it's just a monumental mountain to climb for them to get, like I said, anywhere near safe. So if City have got aspirations of keeping up the pace that they've got, going to Wednesday on Boxing Day has got to be a game that they make, I say, relatively straightforward. That's with the greatest respect to what Wednesday can do on the day, and the atmosphere will be cracking and it'll be very, very busy and packed. But it's what City have got to manage. But like you say, the Championship is extremely unpredictable, but City have got to make sure that they guard against those little periods of times in the game, 20 minutes, half an hour, first half of games, where they're giving way too much rope to the opposition, and on other occasions and against better teams, they'll be ruining that.
Kathryn, you're not feeling typical City on Boxing Day, are you, at this stage?
Only if Fletcher's going, because we have established that Fletcher is the curse now, and I'm not, because I've seen him win. So if Fletcher's going, I'll start to get a bit worried. But I think my kind of only, not fear, but the question mark is obviously, and it's good that now he's got more options. Obviously, I know Gelhardt's still out, but Miller and Bellamy obviously started again on Saturday after playing at Millwall. Can they both start at Wednesday? And then you sort of think, well, can they then start at Middlesbrough and can they then start at Stoke with the injuries that both of them have come back from? Are they both going to be able to get through those? You imagine that he's probably going to have to rotate at some point, and they're not; those two aren't going to be able to start all three of those games. And at which point, do you rest one of them for the Sheffield Wednesday game when you think they're probably going to get more joy attacking wise? They're probably going to have more of the ball, you'd expect, or do you play them against Middlesbrough, which you think is a tougher game? That's kind of the decision the manager's going to be having to make over the next week or so in terms of how much football he can get out of those two. I mean, it's great that obviously you've got McBurnie back, and now he's tried the 4-4-2 and seen that maybe it doesn't work. Kyle Joseph can obviously play out on the wing. Again, with McBurnie, how can he play all three of those games? You'd probably question whether that's possible with him still getting back to full fitness. So it's going to be about, I think, managing the squad. But you don't want him to kind of take Sheffield Wednesday as the game that they're expected to win and then sort of not play your best attacking players, because that is the game that you think they're probably going to get more joy in. But I'm sure he'll have a plan of what to do. And I think, as we've said, if they turn up and play like they can, it should be a game that they win. I mean, I think Sheffield Wednesday have got about 13 senior players fit or something like that. They're really kind of down to bare bones. So as long as there isn't complacency, I don't see them having a problem. It's just about managing the squad, because it is two very difficult games coming straight after that in a short space of time.
Well, three, you're absolutely spot on. You've got three because you've got Watford coming. You play Stoke on New Year's Day, and then a couple of days on the 4th, you then got Watford at home. So it's Burnsy. Kathryn makes a great point there about Miller and Bellamy. Going to Wednesday, you think if you start them, you've got a great chance. But can you afford to rest one or two of them? Maybe go Carl Joseph out wide, or Undala and Akintola, and you've got Miller and Bellamy to come on, and so you kind of keep them fresher for Middlesbrough, because that is the in the sense of competitiveness, that's the competitive fixture. But Kathryn also is right that if you take Wednesday lightly, the Championship, they might be 30 points from safety and not won at home yet, but it only takes Barry Bannon to stick one in the top corner from 25 yards, and suddenly you're 1-0 behind, and the pressure ramps up again. So you can't, if you look too far ahead, you get your backside bitten, don't you?
Yeah. The good thing is, though, that the manager's not afraid to rotate. So he's made those decisions before, and he's got the balance right and everything like that. So, I would trust that he would get it right again. And you've got to manage players. I've sat in on this press conference at Millwall, and he said everybody will get a chance to play over this Christmas period. It's basically the only way we can do it, to protect players and make sure we have a freshness in the team. I mean, I agree with Prutts on Wednesday, because I sort of started my research last night looking at their squad, and they do have some experienced players. I know the results suggest it, but with that level of experience, they should be able to give most teams a game on the day in the Championship. The results suggest that they're not capable of doing it, but they do have some experience in there. It's just they don't have any depth, do they? Prutts, is that a fair thing?
No, that's absolutely right. And go back to Kathryn's point about the fitness of the players as well. It's been a squad and a team that rather scandalously has been cobbled together by poor running of the football club. But that's the position that they find themselves in. City, we know, have experienced their own troubles in the past with regards to that type of thing. So I think there'll be a very good-natured empathy between the sets of fans, but undoubtedly City are going there to win, and they can't get complacent. And broadly we've been very complimentary about the squad, and I've got so much time for all the players in it, but by no means are they good enough to take any game lightly at all in the Championship. And I don't get the sense from the management downwards they're a team or a group of players that would do that, and not just because we're on here and we're talking very glowingly about City, but very likeable bunch, hard-working bunch, prone to a little bit of inconsistency, but the effort and the endeavours there, as and when things haven't gone quite right on the pitch, it hasn't been through lack of trying. It's been an inconsistent portion in the game. It's been underperforming players, but just fundamentally different as a set of characters and a character of the squad to what it was last year, and it's got real grit and determination.
And Prutts, the manager, won't allow it either. You've spoken to him now on both occasions. We all know what he's like. He won't allow that complacency. He won't allow. I mean, he's given them Christmas Day off, and if it backfires, then he might not.
I get that. I mean, I think that's maybe a bit of a. That's not because you said it, Baz, but I think that Christmas Day in training or off training, it's just it's very dated in the sense. I mean, you'd be if you were a footballer that was eating your body weight in food and getting tanked up on Christmas Day, and you were playing Boxing Day, then you'd be an idiot. Yeah. Footballers can be idiots, but whether you're in or not, it's the day before a game. You'd be doing minimal impact training anyway. You'd be ticking over. And you'd be fueling your body right. So that's a very boring answer, but yeah, there won't be many, if any, that are playing Boxing Day that will be doing anything out of the ordinary the day before just because it's Christmas.
What was it like? Just quickly, what was it like for you as a player at Christmas, Prutts, in terms of like training around Christmas, playing? Obviously, you don't get a huge amount of time with your family, and there'll be people going, but they're on 25 grand a week, so they can afford it. It's not a problem, but they're still humans. They've still got young kids. Look, Liam Miller's got a young baby. Oli McBurnie's got a young baby as well. There are other players that have just had children, and you want to spend time with your family at Christmas. But obviously, you've got a lot of games and a lot of travelling as well. Yeah,
it's just part of it. It was never anything different. I loved it. I mean, and when you're younger and you don't have kids and you're not necessarily tied. I remember we at Forest because I was a young lad at the time. There was younger players in and around it, and I'd come back to Hull for the day to see my family. Then I went back to Nottingham and we trained on the City ground Christmas Day night, floodlights on, just us, squad of about 15, 16, and it sounds a bit twee, but it's magical place to play football, magical place when it's full, magical place when it's empty because it's full of memories and history and heritage, and you're just sat there fanning about, kicking around with your mates on Christmas Day evening before you travel off to wherever to do your job the next day. Glorious. I love Christmas. I love everything that it's about, but I loved being a footballer at Christmas as well because it was a chance to get your games in, to kind of work your way through it. And it's different, like I said, when you have kids and you kind of based in different areas of the country. But no, it was just the most wonderful time of the year.
Oh, lovely. Lovely.
And on that bombshell, I've got to go and do shopping and stuff.
In your outfit?
Yeah, left it all to the last minute for you lot.
Lovely to see you. Have a great Christmas.
And you all. It's been a pleasure this year doing this, and it's wonderful when things are going wonderful, and it's wonderful to have you three as compadres on this.
Oh, aren't you, posh?
Fletch can do one.
Oh, bless him in his
cupboard. Have a Merry Christmas, everybody, and you're all lovely, and take care.
Thank you, Prutton.
See ya.
Merry Christmas, Prutts.
There he goes. On the subject of just quickly touching back onto Saturday, Kathryn, Ollie McBurnie back in the side, started the game. It's now 3 goals in 3 games. One from the penalty spot, a really nonchalantly taken penalty from Ollie. But 10 goals, that's now him and Joe Gowhart who've got 10 for the season. Obviously, for Ollie, one of those did come in the cup tie at Wrexham. But to get into double figures at this point when he's missed such a chunk of the season. I think it's 9 in the Championship. I think it's 9 in 14. You know, one of the quickest City players to get to double figures in all comps. Incredible form for Ollie, and proving what a wonderful signing he's been.
Yeah, I think someone said he was the best value in terms of goals per minute, and he was obviously a free transfer, which, you know, I remember Jurkovic saying to him at the start of the season when he signed about, are you the guy that's going to score me however many goals it was, at 15 or 20, did he say?
15.
15.
15. I mean, he might be getting closer. He might be closer to 20 by the end of the season. You know, he's not far off kind of matching that midway through the season already. So I loved his penalty. I loved what he said after the game about, I saw the goalkeeper look at his bottle, and I know I've favoured one side more than the other, so I just put it in the middle. I mean, the kind of the confidence to do that, to see the goalkeeper's going to look that I've gone whichever way it is that he's gone more often, and then to just kind of, you know, to almost just sort of like pass it into the middle. It's you know, when it comes off, it looks brilliant. So it's great to have him back, and he's just somebody that, you know, he holds the ball up, he wins you free kicks. It's he's just he's such a focal point of the attack, and you know, I think he was maybe getting a little bit tired towards the end of the game, but he was still obviously putting a shift in, and that he's just the other one in terms of how much football can he play over the next sort of 3 or 4 games. And the positive is that, you know, I know Kyle Joseph obviously went off with a dead leg, but I'm assuming that he probably will be all right for this run of fixtures. The good thing is that when he was playing as well, he was in a confident mood too. So you've kind of got 2 centre forwards there that are in good run of form, and can both kind of do a job in terms of, you know, leading that attack. Because I'm assuming we might not see them play as a 2 again. Or maybe we will, I don't know. But I'm assuming it'll probably be one or the other, and maybe at some point Joseph will go out wide if he needs to give Miller and Bellamy a rest.
The only way you'd see him as a 2 again, Kathryn, if he played a 3-5-2. And that's the only way I can see that happening. Let me get to some of the messages that are coming into the 1904 club. Flat Cap and Ferret, who is one person, I think, rather than, you know, a ferret and a bloke with a flat cap. It's a bizarre season when we're outplayed, especially in the first half so many times, yet find ourselves 4th at Christmas. Poor league or amazing luck is the question. Can I start on this? Because I did actually send him a reply last night on Twitter. And I think much more than both luck and the standard of the league, the team and the manager and the club generally deserve a lot of credit for what's gone on this season. And I think the league's fascinating this season. What do you think, Baz? Is it a poor league, or is it an amazing amount of luck for City? Have you got a viewpoint on it? That's a stupid question. I know you'll have a viewpoint on it.
I don't think it's a poor league in the sense. I think it's just much more competitive. I don't think you've got the runaway high levels of quality that you've perhaps had in the last few years with dare I say it, Leeds United and Ipswich, you know. But when you look at Ipswich's squad this time, you think, well, that's bloody good. They just haven't found the rhythm. Southampton's squad's very good. Leicester's squad is very good. You know, Sheffield United's is very good. They just haven't found the rhythm. And I think City are greater than the sum of their parts. And I think they've been well coached, well organised. The players have stood up. They've rode their luck at times, but you know, no team in the history of getting promoted has ever got promoted without a bit of luck, because you need luck in various forms, whether that be keeping players fit, whether that be the rub of the green with refereeing decisions, whether that be players staying fit. You know, that is obviously, and City let's not forget, City have got to 4th in the table, winning 11 out of their 22 games without ever being able to name what we would say is probably his strongest team. The manager will say, as all managers do, I don't have a strongest team. We have, you know, squads, etc. Although he does have players that he would say are his first 11 players. You know, they've always had injuries, and every time a player's come back, you know, McBurnie comes back, Gowhar gets injured, somebody else comes back, and somebody else gets injured, and they've had that all the way through the season. So, you know, I feel enthused knowing that if they can keep everybody fit, and if they can get to a situation where in mid to late January, they've got players, everybody available, or nice damn it, they've got a damn good chance. But any team that's fourth at this stage of the season is there on merit, and I don't think it's just luck. I don't think it's just because it's a crap league. I think it's a competitive league. What City have done since the Middlesbrough game is they've been able to put a bit of distance between them. They lost against Borough. They dropped down to 11th or 12th. They've won 3. Now that suddenly there's a 9-point gap to Albion. There's a 6-point gap to Leicester and Southampton, Derby, who were above them at one stage. So, look, you've got to keep it going. And if they end up finishing 17th, it's turned into a really disappointing season, because when you're at this stage, 4th at Christmas, and they should beat Sheffield Wednesday. So, assuming that everything goes to plan, at the halfway point, they're going to be in the top 4. They could even be 3rd. So, they're on merit, and they've just got the challenge is, and it waits for no man, doesn't it? Because you're only as good as your last game, and if they lose 2 of the next 3 and they're out the playoffs again, there'll be disappointment, because expectations are going to get more and more are going to increase because of how they're playing, of how they're winning games. And they come back to it. They've won half their games. So it's not by chance, is it?
Kathryn, what do you make of the league?
I think people sometimes say that every season, though, don't they? That it's a poor league. I think every season that happens. And maybe it's because quite often the teams that have gone up from the Championship struggle to stay up. But I think we've seen, with Sunderland, obviously Leeds making a bit of a fight of it. Maybe Burnley less so, although they did get a point at the weekend. I think this season has been a lot better for the teams that have gone up. So there are some really good teams that just haven't done well this season, or have taken a longer time to get going. I think Ipswich now are obviously playing better, and I think they could maybe be with the shout for the top 2 if they can stay consistent, because I think that's been a problem for them as well. I mean, it's taken Southampton a long time to get going. You see in Sheffield United now finally sort of looking like they might put a run together. I think it's just because a lot of the teams that people expected to be good haven't been good. And I think you see teams like City and Preston, who a lot of people expected to go down or be struggling at the bottom of the table, up there in the top 6. Teams like Stoke, that's 3 clubs there that nearly went down last season, and nobody expected those 3 teams to be up in the top 6 and competing. So I think it's an easy thing for people to say of just, oh well, it's a poor division because those 3 teams nearly went down last season and now they're up at the top. That's just how football can change, and sometimes the teams that you expect to be good, for whatever reason, Will's still at Southampton, it didn't work out. And look, the table might change and teams go on runs, and the Championship is always like this. There's always a small gap between the teams, fighting for the top 6 and the teams further down the table. So much can change, and I think it's a brilliant division in terms of the excitement around it. And I think sometimes when people expect maybe teams to be doing better and maybe their teams further down the table, and you get a game like Saturday where maybe City win and it's not the best game, it's such an easy thing to say, oh well, it's a poor league. But I think if the tables were reversed, then I'm sure they'd have a different opinion.
Exactly. Burnsy, let's put it this way. If let's say Leicester were top, Ipswich were 2nd, Southampton were 3rd, Sheffield United were 4th, everybody else would be saying it's boring, it's predictable, it's the parachute clubs that are at the top of the league. We need somebody else to come from the pack that haven't got the benefit of parachute payments or haven't been in the Premier League for a while. We'd really like some of them to come and challenge. But then you get a season like this where perhaps as Kathryn rightly says, you've got 3 of the teams that nearly. In fact, I know Derby have fallen away a bit, but at one point you had 4 of those teams that nearly went down in and around the top 6. Now you've got that. People are then saying, all right, the throwaway, the league's rubbish. It's not very good. Look, you've got Millwall there, got Stoke there, Hull City there, Preston there. It's absolute garbage. Well, you can't have it both ways. If you want all the teams, if you want the parachute teams at the top, it's going to be boring and predictable. You then get a Hull City team that have had struggles, issues in the transfer market, financial issues. Suddenly, they've got a manager that's got a bit about him. He's got charisma. He's got tactical acumen. He's got a group of players that are fighting for each other. That was proven by Charlie Hughes staying down for 7 or 8 minutes with a cut to his head, gets back up with a Terry Butcher, and cracks on and has a really good game. That spirit, they've got that, and I think it's disrespectful to teams to say it's Hull City are 4th because the league's rubbish. Actually watch Hull City's games, and yes, they're not every week they've not been free flowing. Every week they've not been amazing. But actually, if you take the time and effort to look at how they've played some wonderful stuff at times. They've scored some fantastic goals, and yeah, they are open and they're trying to figure that out. They're trying to be more, and they have since half time against Borough. They've been a lot better. But I don't know. I think it's disrespectful to all the clubs that are working really hard to fight against parachute clubs and compete against them and beat them, as City have done and Preston are doing, and Millwall they're having a bit of a sticky spell. But I think it's great for the league. Absolutely wonderful. And Coventry and Middlesbrough at the top. Fantastic for the league. We don't want it to be predictable where the teams come down, just go straight back up again because they've got all the money. Sheffield United have been absolutely garbage this season. Yeah, he's starting to turn it around. Leicester have been horrendous. They got tonked at QPR. That was quite funny on Saturday. Sheffield Wednesday going back to Loftus Road. Southampton were awful in the first half of the first part of the season. Will still got the bullet. City were brilliant against them. Give them credit. Give all these teams credit for having to fight against teams that have got massive budgets and can spend £30 million on one player. There you go. I'm off my festive soapbox.
He's gone for it there. See what you started, Flat Cap and Ferret. But thank you very much for your message to the 1904 Club. The Fat Bold Sausage just wants to say this. Really trying not to get ahead of myself, but fourth at Christmas. Sheffield Wednesday next, followed by Borough, who were only 5 points behind us as things stand. We couldn't, could we? The vibes around the club at the moment bring back very good memories. Well, we're making fresh ones. Uma in Hull says, Merry Christmas to you and everyone watching. Do you think we need defensive cover in January? We're linked with Bashir Humphreys. Any truth in that? Bass, what can you tell us? We'll get into a bit of transfer stuff. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I think he's a player they've looked at, and I would suspect they've got to be careful because they've not got they've not got much room for manoeuvre in January. But I think they might like a bit of extra cover. Obviously, Shemi's away with Nigeria, and we wish him well. He's had his injury troubles. You've got Famewo, who's not really had a bit of a real chance yet, but we've seen that they've had to call on young McCarthy from the academy, who's a great prospect. It wouldn't surprise me if interest came in Charlie Hughes in January. We know that Coventry pushed hard in the summer, so we know how January works. Teams that are going well in the Championship, other teams look at their players and think, well, he must be doing well because they're doing well. So I suspect there'll be firm interest in Charlie back in January. So then the club have a decision to make over whether they stick or twist with him. If somebody made a crazy offer for Charlie and they said, look, he's got to go, then they obviously definitely need defensive cover. The issue they've got, as it was in the summer, they can't go and they can't buy the next Charlie Hughes until the summer. So it's going to be wheeling and dealing with loans. He wants a number 10. They've been linked with Kieran Dowell from Rangers, who's out of favour. They wanted Fabio Carvalho. That obviously can't happen now because he's done his ACL. They want to tweak it, but I don't think they need mass. Like last January, they needed a lot because they were going down, or they were the threat of going down. They needed players to come in and basically keep them up, which Gelhardt, Crooks, etc. did. This time around, they've got to be a bit more careful because they've got a good squad. When everybody's fit and available, they've got a really good squad. They've got options, and they don't want to upset the apple cart either. You don't want to bring players in that's going to rock the boat. And we saw it under Liam when they brought Zaruri in. It kind of upset the balance of the team. It meant that Jaden had to move around, and we just never really. Carvalho was a brilliant signing, and he scored a lot of goals. But Zaruri should have been a great signing, but it had the adverse effect in many ways. So they've got to be really, really careful with what they do in January. We know it. We say it every year. It's an almost impossible market to do business in. Given City's situation, it becomes even harder to do business, to get players on frees or on free loans from clubs. You're trying to pull in favours, and clubs don't always want to do that for a team that are trying to get promotion. So I think they're going to have to be really, really careful with what they do, but they will need to get one or two out to be able to bring one or two in.
Just because this question comes up every week, I will ask it, but simple, nothing in it at all. Will do, Baz. Alan Parkinson says, anything regarding the rumour that Joe Gelhardt is going back to Leeds and then sold to Coventry? Can you knock that one on the head?
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard that myself. I think we keep getting rumours. I mean, obviously we're at that time of the year, aren't we, where rumours. I mean, he's out he's out injured until the middle of January. So, and then he's going to come back, and then he's going to be playing a couple of games here and there. So he's not going to be probably fully fit till the back end of January, early February. So, and I think Leeds, from what I've reported before, Leeds can only call him back at the start of January. That's the recall. So Leeds would only call him back to sell him. They're not going to call him back to play him. Would it surprise me if there was interest in Joe Gowhart? Absolutely not, because again, clubs panic at this time of the year, and they see any player that's scoring double figures of goals, there's going to be interest. But from what I gather at this stage, there's no plan. Look, things change, and what I say on the 22nd of December could change by the 3rd of January. So as we're talking now, there's no plan for Joe Gowhart to be recalled. Joe wants to stay here. He's got no ambition to go and play anywhere else. He wants to stay at Hull City, and he's injured. So it's kind of a moot point at the minute.
Friend, let me ask you this one, coming into the 1904 club from Paul Harper, who says, with Giles, Slater and Joseph arguably playing the best football of their careers, it makes you wonder if the boss could get the best out of Kamara and/or / Omar. Although realistically, I don't expect to see the latter in a City shirt again. Merry Christmas to everybody at the 1904 club. He has improved players, hasn't he?
Kathryn, go on.
Sergey.
He has, yeah. I just don't. I think it's this thing with Kamara. I think we've said it, Burnsy, that we just always felt there was a player in there, and we just, for whatever reason, he couldn't quite get that consistency last season, and maybe he needed Jukanovic last season to get the best out of him. I don't know whether he would be the type of player that we would necessarily need now. We do have quite a lot of options in the wide areas, especially when Gellhart does come back, and you think, how much playing time would he get? Would it actually be worth his while coming back? I think it would only be maybe if we did leave somebody. If, in a horrible event, Coventry can just sort of go away and sort of stay away from our players, that'd be great. But, if in any event, if Gellhart, for whatever reason, if something did happen with him, or if his injury got worse, for example, then maybe there would be a place for Kamara. But I can't kind of see it right now. I just don't think they necessarily need him. And I just don't think he would necessarily fit into the system either. I actually think when we're talking about defensive cover, I think for me, when he's come on, has been really, really good. I think he had that game at Wrexham where he came on, and it was, I'm not sure if he was fully fit, and it wasn't the best start for him. But I think when he came on at Stoke, he did really well. Thought when he came on at Saturday, he did a really good job of just helping see the game out. And especially being fair to him, he's not a left back, and he's been coming on at left back, and he's done a really good job. And if, like Burnsy said, when if he ever went to a back five, obviously he's done that with Ajayi in the team. I think for me, we could see a three back five. If that's something he wanted to do at Middlesbrough, for example, if one of those wingers needed a rest, or if he wanted to change the system for whatever reason, I think he could do a job there with Giles maybe playing as a left wing back if he played left centre back. I also half wondered whether he might give him a run at Sheffield Wednesday just because it's his old team. But whether you want to sort of disrupt the back four for that game, possibly not. But I've been quite impressed with him the last few weeks when he's come off the bench. So I'm kind of, as much as, obviously the more defensive cover you have, the better. And, not having Ajayi is a bit of a blow. But I think if something did happen, I think maybe could come on and do a job, hopefully.
Yeah, Burnsy, I can't see any way back at this stage for Abdouche or for Abu Kamara. So I think, and obviously they needed to get both of them. I mean, getting Kamara out was absolutely pivotal to getting Amir in. So they can't, at the minute, they can't bring even if they wanted to, which they don't, they can't bring Kamara back because they haven't got the space. That's him going was pivotal. And it'll be the case again in January that they'll need to get one or two out to be able to bring one or two in. Now, who goes? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, there'll be young players. There are young players that will go on loan, but that doesn't have any impact. I still think Casey Palmer is a player that is likely to fall by the wayside. He's the obvious one. I know he's coming back from injury, but he featured a bit at the start of the season, but I don't see but I would suspect that's an area that they look at. Ultimately, they're going to have to be cutthroat. If they want to bring 3 players in, for example, three senior players have got to go. And that's the challenge for them, isn't it? If they want to strengthen, and they are strengthening from a position of strength, and they will be an attractive now. Whereas in the summer they weren't a particularly attractive club to join, and that's not my disparaging words. That's what the manager said, that players didn't want to join Hull City because they looked at last season, they looked at the restrictions, and they thought, I'm not so keen on that. Well, there'll be players now that are looking at it going, hang on a minute, they're 4th in the table, they're playing great football, they're scoring loads of goals, players talk, everybody's loving it under Jurkovic. There'll be players that want to come and join Hull City. Whether they can or not they might not be able to because of the situation. So they've just got to find a way to get through January without losing Gowhart, without losing Charlie Hughes, keep everybody intact. I think the biggest success for me in January, well, when the window closes on February the 2nd or whatever it is that this squad is all together, that players are fit. If there are no additions, I'm kind of okay with that. I'm not that bothered. I think the key thing is keeping the biggest success would be keeping that squad together, keeping them fit. And if you've got that going into February the 3rd, I think they're in a wonderful position.
Just on Palmer, do you expect him to feature over Chris? Because there was some talk he might have been in the squad and made the bench for the game against West Brom. Do you expect to see him?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Bench at least Wednesday,
yeah,
Middlesbrough, Stoke.
There was talk of him being on. I mean, Sergei suggested to me on last Thursday that he could have been on the bench against Albion. I'm seeing him this afternoon, so I'll check again. I suspect he'll be involved, and if he's a player that Casey wants to play and he's not playing, I know he's been injured, but I don't see how Casey plays week in, week out. He'll want to play. So if they're going to try and move him on, then he needs to be playing, because him being not playing is not helpful to anybody. So, but I would suspect over Christmas, if he's fit and he's back, which he's getting closer, then yeah, I mean he's a useful option off the bench. We saw in the back end of last season that him and Gowhart struck up a really useful partnership. And on this day, Casey is a useful player on this day. Is Casey? He's a bit too predictable and inconsistent, which has been his problem throughout his career, which is why he's had so many clubs. But he can do something, and he needs to. He hasn't really done much, if we're honest, since he joined the football club, bar 1 or 2 glimpses of moments here and there. So he's got to, if he wants to get back in this team, he's got to come on and make an impact. If he wants to get a move elsewhere, equally.
Just on the subject of the transfer window, Will says to the 1904 club, feel like we must try and get a defensive midfielder who demands the ball from the back and can carry it. There seems to be a lack of options once Pandora's played it out to Hughes or Egan or Ajayi. Thank you for that, Tiger Will. Much appreciated.
We've talked about Zambrano.
Phil Moore, thank you.
We've mentioned.
Is he back?
I mentioned Zambrano before. I mean, he's available. So that, again, it wouldn't surprise me. And I said this a week ago, so I'm just repeating it, so apologies. But again, no concrete information on that at this stage, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was something they look to try and do. But again, somebody's got to go because of the FFP and how close they're sailing to the wind with financial fair play. They can't just bring 4 or 5 players in. They've got to get somebody out. So that makes it. And I know this week they're having meetings. I know Jared is presenting to Jurkovic this week. Their kind of plan for the window. They've got things lined up. They've got players they would like to bring in, but it is going to be a balancing act, as we've said before.
They need Lundstrom back as well, don't they? In terms of that defensive midfielder option that I was just talking about. Lundstrom being out, he's that player that can take the ball from the defenders, isn't he?
Yeah, and he should be back on the bench. Or, I mean, we'll get a full update this afternoon. But the plan was and is that he's back on. He should be back in the squad at Hillsborough, which is a big boost.
I'm sure he'll get a great reception there.
David Wilson. Yeah. David Wilson says, are they in a position to tie key players down to longer contracts? Are they in any discussions with anybody contract-wise, Baz?
Yeah, they're on the. I mean, we reported a few weeks ago now that they're in talks with Louis Coyle over extending his deal. I think that again, Regan Slater's another one. I think they'll try and get sorted out. Egan, Players that are coming into towards the back end of their existing deals. I mean, they've all got options, which is a club policy, so they're protected in that respect. But yeah, I suspect they'll want to reward. You also have to be careful that we have only gone half a season, so you don't want to be jumping too far ahead and starting rewarding people with long-term contracts and big contracts because you've had a good start to the season. That is, if Louis Coyle has a terrible second half of the season and they finish fourth from bottom, everybody was saying they shouldn't be offered a new deal. So, and same thing with the manager. Sergei's done a phenomenal job, but he's on a good contract. You don't want to start because he's had a great first half of the season. You shouldn't. I'm not an advocate for going, well, actually, let's reward it now. If he gets them in the playoffs or he gets them promoted, absolutely. Even if he finishes 7th, absolutely. But I think at this stage of the season, let's just let things take their natural course.
Yeah, I'm expecting him to improve as a manager in the second half of the season, personally, because I think he knows more about the division now. He's seen what's out there. He presumably he must have a better feel for it, and I'm looking forward to it because I think he's been excellent. I'm conscious of the time, Baz.
Yeah, just quickly, Kathryn, how impressed have you been with the manager?
I think I just echo what you say. I mean, didn't really know what to expect from him when he came in. He's handled everything really well. I think the difficult situation in the summer. I like the way he talks after games. I think I like his honesty. I like his humour. I think he's created a really good environment in terms of the squad culture. The players seem to love him, even the players that aren't playing regularly. I think that's a big thing, that the players that aren't starting seem to really like him as well. So far so good, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. Just before we finish, Burnsy, it was the academy takeover on Saturday, where the club got a load of their under 18s to shadow different jobs on the day. You had Caden Cole and Calvin Akike on co-commentary duties with yourself and young Bartholomew Brown, didn't you? How did that go?
It went so well. I'm looking at the situations vacant down the local job centre to see if anybody needs a summariser. They were good. They again, yeah, no, they were good. It was a real pleasure to have them alongside us, and I think they enjoyed it. They seemed to enjoy it, and me and Joe enjoyed the company on Tigers Plus. And some good insight. My favourite moment was Joe asked Calvin during the game about when players put their hands up for corners and free kicks and things like that. Joe asked Calvin whether that's they have worked on a signal and everything like that. He said no, sometimes it seems to be just for show, and it made us laugh really. So it was great company, and well done to the club for doing it. It was good.
I was a bit concerned before the game because both of them came in, and it looked like they were having some advice from young Michael White, the Panto Dame at the not the BBC Panto, and so I was a bit like, if you want advice for commentary and stuff, is Michael White the best option? Clearly, he was at that stage. Hopefully Mike's tips and everything help them in the game.
Well, they were good, and all the best to them in their careers. Because Calvin's not far away from it. He was in the squad. Didn't he make the bench at Norwich earlier in the season? So, I shall follow his career with interest, and we'll see what happens.
The guy who was doing the on-pitch announcing, did they pick just the player that had the most sort of strong Hull accent? I thought that was great. I was like, I don't recognise this voice doing the on-pitch announcing at half-time, and I was like, that makes sense now. I didn't sort of clock it was an academy player, but I was like, oh, this is a really strong accent. I think they must have just picked the player who's got the strongest Hull accent in the squad. You can do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you say, Burnsy, agreed that. Kudos to the club, a wonderful initiative. I know they've done it with the Tigers Trust before, so yeah, and thanks to Sergei for popping by at the end with a bucket of beer for the media, and we had gingerbread biscuits, reindeer biscuits, and mince pie. So thanks to the club for that. Right, on that bombshell. that's the Christmas episode of the 1904 Club done and dusted for another year. Hopefully, when we're back with you next week, we'll have a victory on Boxing Day to celebrate, and then obviously another one against Middlesbrough. Hopefully, revenge at the Riverside. Kathryn, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Baz, and to you, Burnsy.
And to you, Burnsy, in your festive dress.
Sorry, I'll try better next year. No, I'll still be the same miserable so and so. Well done, Baz, on the buddy outfit. I've got there in the end. Have you got the curly pointy shoes as well on? Actually, I
can't. If I show you them,
and you decide to show us, so we'll not risk it.
Yeah, if I try and lift my leg at 41 years of age, if I lift my leg that high, my tights will rip.
Merry Christmas to everybody, and thank you for all your messages on the 1904 Club. They are much appreciated. I know I don't get through them all when we record it, but I try my very best to pick out some of the more pertinent ones.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Christmas to Prutts, who departed early, and Fletch as well, Kathryn, Burnsy, and everybody that watches, listens, and gets in touch. We do appreciate it. And yeah, have a great Christmas. City are fourth in the table, so how could it not be a great Christmas in that respect? And we will be back again soon. Up the Tigers.